Hello and welcome to Studio RC. My name is Max and I am an alcoholic. I want to welcome you today. We're beginning a brand new series. Start looking at the 12 traditions of AA. Now, at Recovery Church, we have our values. We have our 12 values. But one of the things we do is we definitely believe in the 12 steps, and the 12 traditions we use as a guide. Whereas in the AA fellowship specifically, that's kind of what guides their meetings and the business end, and the thought, or one of the joke is the steps keep us from committing suicide, and the traditions keep us from committing homicide. Now, I don't know if that might be taking it too far, but there are a lot of great principles in the 12 traditions. So we're going to take a look each week at a different tradition. And this will be the same intro each time. And because there are 12 traditions, it comes out of the 12 and 12 book, what we're going to do is we're going to take 12 minutes for each tradition and see how much we cover and what we can figure out about that. Now, one of the things I know, sometimes traditions, they're not the sexiest thing going. Sometimes when people find, if you go to a meeting and it's a tradition meeting, you're like, oh, it's a tradition meeting. I think that sometimes the more you get into them and the more you understand them, there are so many transferable principles, not only for the group, but for the individual as well. And so we're going to take a look at that and just see how that guides us, and also how that impacts us at Recovery Church, and how those traditions, how they kind of live themselves out in our context. But so we'll take this opportunity. We're going to look at each one, a different one each week. And so let's jump in right now. Thanks so much, and come on this journey as we take a look at AA's 12 traditions. Let's jump into the 8th tradition. The 8th tradition states, Alcoholics Anonymous should remain forever non-professional, but our service centers may employ special workers. So AA should remain forever non-professional, but our service centers may employ special workers. The 8th tradition, just like the 7th tradition, focuses on money. That vulgar 5-letter word that gets us in trouble. Many of us had to explain to a cynical prospect, no, I'm not a social worker. I don't get paid for working with you. I'm doing it because it's the best way to stay sober for myself. Carrying the message to others. I have to pause this for a second. I got to put the 12 minutes on there. I just stole 30 seconds. Don't tell anyone, but let's put the 30 seconds up there. I almost forgot. But so we don't get paid to help other people get sober, to sponsor people, to carry the message. That's not part of it. Now, Bill W. in the beginning was thinking of becoming like a lay therapist to earn money through his experience in helping alcoholics. With a strong nudge from group conscience, he soon realized he could never just hang out a shingle reading Bill W., AA therapist, $10 an hour. That wasn't going to be appropriate. That wasn't going to work. So no AA should ever ask or accept payment for carrying the message, because person to person, face to face, that we shouldn't get paid to carry the message, and that's what the 8th tradition is very much about. The first intergroups or central offices, those places locally that helps have a 24-hour hotline, or helps people get meetings, or those kind of things, help sometimes supply literature, were usually manned by AA volunteers. They were, Now, most of these offices got so busy that they had full-time employees that were needed. So naturally, the people in recovery were better suited to such jobs than non-members. But are these AAs being paid for doing 12-step work? And the answer is no. In the office, what they're doing is they're paving the way for the work. And that was the understanding. You get a phone call and you say, you know what, there's a meeting on Main Street and at the Methodist Church at 7 p.m. tonight. You're setting it up. You're pointing the way. You're not doing some of the face-to-face working. Arranging to get a sick drunk into a hospital, or maybe telling a shaky newcomer where the nearest meeting is. They're helping make it possible for the alcoholic to hear the message, person to person and face to face. And so we had a similar, with the General Service Office in New York, and they employed people to answer letters and for literature requests and to do those. In these office jobs and in other assignments, members are actually paid for their business and professional skills. So whether it's writing a letter, whether it's printing a book, it's sending it out, they're paid for doing those services. In present day AA, there's too great a volume of work to be done in just spare hours here and there. And only, honestly, the very wealthy or retired could afford to work full-time as volunteers. And so that's not realistic to meet the needs of the addicts and alcoholics. There'd be another problem in using volunteers alone. It seems ungrateful, or at least socially awkward, to criticize or reject a job that's done for free. But paid jobs, AAs can get quite going over. They can inspect the work. And if you think about it, if you have somebody make coffee, a newcomer, it's got like 2-3 weeks and they're making the coffee at the meeting, and the coffee's not very good, you're not going to say, oh, this coffee is horrible. You just understand that you chalk it up. It's a newcomer, they're serving, that's great, they're there. But if you were paying a professional barista and they were still making horrible coffee, and the group, had for some reason said, you know what, we're going to pay this person, although I don't know that would be a good use of seventh tradition, but nonetheless, and then you could say, hey, this isn't what we want, So I don't know if that's a good example or not. Came it off the top of my head. It might have holes. So, but the tradition states that we should remain forever non-professional. We're not going to become professional 12-steppers. But service centers, the things that help the group, that you can employ special workers there. Alcoholics Anonymous will never have a professional class. Freely you have received, freely you give. At this point, professionalism, money and spirituality don't mix. Where we just talked about in the previous seventh tradition, when we pass the hat, pass the bucket, money and spirituality do mix. In this case, they don't mix. Almost no recovery from alcoholism has ever been brought about by the world's best professionals, whether medical or religious. It is usually through the rooms of AA or NA, the various 12-step programs. Every time we have tried to professionalize our 12 steps, our singleness of purpose has been defeated. We get off track. And so this is an important thing to do. Alcoholics simply will not listen to a paid 12-step call. You get paid to do this. There's a cynicism. There's a hint of an ulterior motive. People won't listen to that. Face-to-face work with the alcoholic who suffers could be based only on the desire to help and to be helped. What I'm doing by helping you is really helping myself. I had a friend once say, many in AA have a tough, money in AA has always had a tough time, but the people in AA always have a great time. I thought that was kind of funny. And profiting from AA is not the issue. Specifically doing 12-step work for money, pay, is the issue in this particular tradition. This is getting paid to carry the message. And so a lot of these the special workers are not necessarily doing 12-step work at all. They're again setting up the 12-step work. In all these instances and more where you see people working, it was claimed that AA knowledge and experience were being sold for money. Hence, these people were professionals. And we said 12 steps. The 12th step could not be sold for money. And we had been wise, and I think people have, they had the counsel of fear, which today has been largely dispelled in light of experience, that we need those professionals and that they're not getting paid for 12-step work. They're getting paid to help us, point people in the right direction, helping people as an on-ramp into recovery or into different facilities. And again, the job was not to do 12-step work. It was to make 12-step work possible. It was a service proposition, pure and simple, to assist groups and individuals on helping people with the 12-step work. One of the things that was an issue is, some members shunned people who were working for AA or in the service centers. And so what they would do is they would took full advantage of this attitude of, members shouldn't do that. And then they depressed their salaries. They underpaid them. And so in order to regain some measure of virtue, they took a lower salary and they would do it for the cheap. And that just wasn't treating our own members properly or their skills properly for what they were doing. And perhaps the fear will always lurk in every AA's heart that one day that our name will be exploited by someone for real cash. But even the suggestion of such a thing never fails to really whip up a hurricane. And we have discovered that hurricanes have a way of mauling with equal severity both the just and the unjust, and they are always unreasonable. Members who select such full-time careers do not professionalize AA's 12th step. The road to this conclusion, according to the book, was long and rocky. So it wasn't something they just came to immediately. It was something that they had to really go through experience and tried to work through, and they saw the practical application of it. And so there were some ups and downs, but they figured, yes, this is true. It's significant that almost no AA in our fellowship today breaks anonymity at the public level in regards to serving and in regards to these kind of things. We see that we have no right or need to discourage AAs who wish to work as individuals in these wider fields, as alcohol counselors, in rehabs, and doing some of those things. It would actually be, not very hospitable of us if we were to forbid them. We cannot declare AA such a closed corporation that we keep our knowledge and experience top secret. We need the things that we've learned, we need to get out and plant those seeds. If an AA member acting as a citizen can become a better researcher, educator, personal officer, because of the things of AA, then why not? Everybody gains, and we've lost nothing. The 12th step is never to be paid for. It's just that simple. But those who labor in service for us are worthy of their hire. And that is a biblical principle as well, that we're worthy of our hire. So again, sort of a conclusion of our 8th tradition, and we're probably a little under because I started the clock a little late, but AA members should not be paid for their service, but AA can hire people for necessary administrative tasks. The biblical concept here is freely you have received, freely give. And then the spiritual concept is voluntary service is a core principle, but practical needs can be met by hiring non-members professionals for supporting roles. And so one of the things I was thinking about is A group may want to bring a speaker in. And so they may pay for their travel and pay for their hotel. They don't pay for them to speak because that would be paying for their 12-step experience. But they may be coming from a distance, so they say, you know what, we'll pay for your hotel and we'll pay for your meals, and so that your weekend is paid for, but we're not paying you to speak. Again, that's through some of our experience, strength, and hope. So, Recovery Church, in regards to this, we don't get paid in order to help people get sober, or we don't, recommend specific rehabs or anything like that. We always have a list of multiple ones so that we can be above reproach. But the hard part with Recovery Church is we are forever non-professional. However, because we're not AA and we are a church, we sometimes have people who are vocationally called to things like ministry, like pastors. And whether we want to call them professionals or not, that's probably another debate for another time. But we could probably comment on that in the comment section. But some campuses just have people who lead, and some campuses are fortunate enough to have people who are seminarially trained and there to help the addict and the alcoholic, not necessarily to do 12-step work, but to help formulate and help to organize the church so that it is honoring the Bible and that they've studied the Bible. So again, that's an interesting caveat. And again, all the traditions in AA are guiding principles, but are not the letter of the law for Recovery Church, because we're two different organizations. But truly, there is some real wisdom, both as the individual and for campuses to hear and learn from these traditions that help the group. So thanks so much for listening to Tradition 8. Again, if you have a comment, thought, put it in the comment section. Follow, share, subscribe, do your thing. We'll get the word out. We love it. We thank you for being a part of Studio RC this week, and we remind you, Recovery Church, 12 steps, one goal. God bless, and we'll see you next time.